Here we are live. It is 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and a lot of stuff is going on. So I want to update you on a bunch of different things now before my next patient, which comes at 11. I want to welcome everyone. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. This is the Longevity Insider with Dr. Murphy. I'm Dr. Murphy, and I'm going to talk with you a little bit about the hullabaloo here with peptides. There's been a lot of buzz that's going on now that HIMSS, which is a telehealth company, I noticed they didn't say telemedicine, it's a telehealth company that is giving telemedical care for patients and really more than anything else, giving them access to Viagra, sexual health drugs, as well as hair drugs for men, and for hers, which is their partner company, giving them access to other medications with some loose sort of check-in guidance. And let's face it, some patients only need that. Some patients only want that. So there's a market for that. The reason why I say that is because HIMSS has now agreed to stop distributing compounded GLP-1s. Instead, they've agreed to distribute directly from the pharmaceutical manufacturer. That's important because that means that the pharmaceutical manufacturer has successfully defended their patent and has ignited a fire under the regulatory agencies to make sure that regulatory approved medications are not being bootlegged by compound pharmacies or even by peptide manufacturers. Because let's face it, a lot of peptides, what happens is they're made at a manufacturing plant, a large compounding facility for bulk. That bulk is then distributed to smaller pharmacies that will then make it and sell it. Well, with the GLP-1s, it appears that that is not really a viable method for FDA-approved, patent-protected medicines, semaglutide, tirzepatide. So now HIMSS has brought the flag down, raised up the white flag of surrender, and has paired with a pharmaceutical company dispensing these medications. Why is that important? It's important because we have a whole bunch of research use only peptide companies shutting down their doors. What is a research use only peptide? It is a peptide that is not intended for human use. But guess what? All sorts of people are using them for human use. When you hear about peptides at your church, not just at your gym, you know that you are at peak penetration of peptide use. TikTok has driven this. Multi-level marketing systems have driven this. The gray market, because the FDA cracked down and moved a whole bunch of peptides illegally, according to RFK Jr. and HHS, illegally moved them into the wrong category. And so while that's fought out in court, everyone got really excited when RFK said he's going to move about 14 peptides over. People thought they had won. Who thought they had won? Well, the physicians that used those peptides and then couldn't use those peptides, and the patients who had to then resort to using Chinese manufacturers and Indian manufacturers without a compound pharmacy. So they bared a lot of risk. That risk, now it appears, is pivoting to the physician. What does that mean? Well, a lot of these research peptide companies shut down. Peptide Science is one of those. They said, we're out. We're not doing this anymore. While a lot of other companies have pivoted. What does that mean? Well, a lot of these people that make peptides are making them in manufactured plants that no one is inspecting, so therefore there's no quality control. There's third-party testing for purity of the peptide, but where's the sterility control? And a lot of times those are some issues that people have had. And I've had a ton of patients have issues with research use only peptides that either A, they bought for themselves and used for themselves, or B, a physician has used them on a patient. And I have issues with that where a patient actually had trigger point injections with research use only peptides at an insane dose And now they have all sorts of problems. So telling a peptide purchaser that you can't use these on humans is one thing. Telling them you can't use them on humans, but here's the protocol for how to use them on humans, just in case you're curious, kind of toes a line. And regulators notice that. So payment processors are shutting down access. So companies are pivoting. They're now saying research use only peptides. We're wrong. We don't mean research use only, not for humans. We mean professional use only. And in fact, professional use only means that physicians can purchase them to do research on patients. That's a huge risk. I'm talking to other physicians in this group. It is a massive risk you're undertaking, injecting something that was previously research use only, not for human use. Now, we only let physicians buy this or wellness clinics buy this. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And if I were using research peptides, you can be darn sure I would charge a crap load of money for that risk. You have to pay more malpractice. You're going to have to get more malpractice insurance if you are going to use research-only peptides. Huge malpractice risk. And if you're a patient who's bringing in their research-use-only peptides, as a physician, I would not be injecting a patient with those. Patient wants to do it on their own, they do it on their own. Every physician has to have their level of risk. What's mine? If you want to do something that theoretically could risk my license and production of revenue for the rest of my life, and you really feel that strongly about it, and if you're a physician, you feel strongly about it, you better make sure you can earn from the money that they paid you enough to earn interest that will support you the rest of your life. What is that? To me, that's $15 million at 4% interest. Live on it the rest of your life. So I think pivoting into physician use only may capture some physicians who are willing to take that risk. But most, I think, will be savvy and won't do it. They're still going to want to go through compounded pharmacy. The problem with that is that it prevents access to many of the peptides that are on Category 2 lists. And that's unfortunate for the patient. So what we really need is the FDA to recategorize these peptides that are fairly safe when manufactured in facilities that are inspected, that have sterility checks, and that have third-party testing. Inspection, sterility tests, inspection, sterility tests, and third-party inspections are the hallmarks of proper peptide manufacturing. I'm going to say it again. You ready? Proper peptide manufacturing requires third-party inspections, third-party testing, and sterility testing before anything goes out. It includes lot numbers, manufacturing ability to track, and adverse event reporting. So, if you want to use PUOs, you better make sure that those manufacturing companies have those systems in place. Research use only is now professional use only, physician use only, to keep the funds flowing. That's the way they'll go. And I expect for patients, the price of peptides is going to go up any way you slice it. So, it is with that I bid you adieu. Today is March 10th, 2026. Peptides are in the news yet again. Here's the takeaways. If you're going to use PUO or RUO, research use only peptides, you need to make sure that the manufacturer does independent third-party testing, that the facility is independent third-party inspected, and that your peptides are tested for sterility before they ever get shipped out. These same manufacturers need to have a method to track lot number manufacturing. They need to have a method to report adverse events, and they need to track adverse events. That's a responsible peptide manufacturer. I'm going to let you go. Here's to a life well lived.